The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everybody, welcome to the weekly Noyantis User Group webinar. Today is, what are we on? We are the 10th of February. Time flies. Myself and John are your hosts. As always, if you've got any questions or queries, feel free to raise your hand. We'll get the microphones opened and we'll cover the topics accordingly. Okay, so while waiting for questions, I always like to start with updates. I've just been quickly talking with John then because we've got a busy. We're going through a very busy period, which is great, of course, but it does mean we've got to try and schedule our work accordingly. So the docking panes is not quite ready for release. It's ready for beta, and I think Alan, who's not here yet, actually, he normally attends, wants a beta copy of it, and it's in good shape. This application I always use this schedule this application, but this particular application is using the new docking panes, and it's a lot better than the previous one. I've still got some issues to do with it, hence why I can't really release it as gold, but no, I'm more than happy with what it is, how it's performing so far, so that's good. So that is first on the schedule, and that will be this week. Oh, actually, no, I've got that wrong. So I'm looking at my the planner, and it's scheduled for next week, but the report control update is scheduled for release this week. So you can expect a report control update this week, which will be quite nice. And then docking panes next week. It's got GSEC the week after, or then command bars the week after that, but those two might swap depending on requirements. So that is where we're up to. We're still just looking into the new HTML editor, which we mentioned last week, and so on. And I will know more for next week's webinar. So that's all I can really report on that. And that's really it from the updates point of view. No questions yet. Could be one of the shortest ones on record. This. Topics for CIDC. I don't know if anyone's seen the actual the website and the board. Let me just quickly show you the schedule. I'll bring that into focus. And we briefly mentioned it last week. I think it looks pretty good. John, are you looking forward to it?
I am.
Yep.
I have a couple presentations to do myself.
Yeah,
I'm going to ask you about it.
That's why I've got my planner, because I need to do mine. In fact, actually, when I looked, so from a training point of view, we're doing accounting APIs. So it's going to be one whole section on the do's and don'ts and so on of the accounting APIs. And I'm going to create an actual shippable example for the training, but this will probably go with the Chillcat wrapper anyway, so anyone who's got the Chillcat wrapper will probably get the app. Won't get all the training, of course, but they will get the app. And the idea behind it is it'll be a very small little customer transaction type system where you've got your general ledger codes, tax rates, currencies, anything you need to be able to post transactions. And that's what we'll be covering in the accounting training. So what I want to do is demonstrate empty databases, have them populate from maybe Xero, maybe QuickBooks. I've got some work to do on a Sage wrapper, so maybe Sage by then. But from an accounting system, we'll have the database being populated from them, let you put some transactions in, edit new things at the local. We'll cover how you synchronize those updates, so that what you would store in the information behind the scenes, and then of course pushing that information back up to Xero or QuickBooks or whatever the one is that we use. So that's the accounting training, and we're also going to do similar training for the calendar. That is the do's and don'ts of the calendar control, but also in that should be a calendar update, which will include the automatic updating of your Google Calendar, the external calendar events. So it's really it's some really good content. if I say so myself, I think people will find it really beneficial. But I did notice, John, we're talking some similar topics, are we not? In our presentations, we're
We
doing
are.
APIs. I didn't know until I looked after Booth. I knew what I suggested, and then when I saw the schedule, it was a case of, and so is John. So that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, we need to kind of
you tell
coordinate
me, you
that a
show
little,
me
I
yours,
think.
if I'll show you mine.
I'll show you mine.
So,
Well, what were you planning specifically? Mine is, I'll tell you what mine is. Mine's it's kind of a template add-on for NetTalk,
okay,
and NetTalk is to my mind, it's not difficult, I guess, but it takes a lot of remembering and typing and things like that to do API calls, because all you're really trying to do is you know send your authentication over maybe to this API. Say you're doing maps or something, right?
yeah,
So you need to send over, authenticate against it, and then you need to get some information on this location and maybe retrieve some tiles or something else. Maybe the maps isn't a good example, but there's maybe 5 things you have to do or you want to do. And maybe they're in different parts of the program, but with NetTalk, you'd have to make at least 1, maybe 5 different procedures that handle each one, because you're filling in queues and all this other kinds of things. Anyway, and you got to make windows for each of them, and things have to go in different parts of the code. You got to do error checking and all this other kind of stuff. Anyway, so my template just kind of combines all that stuff together and makes it so you just go to the template and fill in the blanks on what you want to do.
okay,
I want to fill out this queue with this information I'm going to get, and and what you do too is in the globals. It's kind of what I want to do with what we need to do with the Noyantis thing. In the globals, you plug in your information as far as where the API call is made, your authentication, and then it's used everywhere. Whenever you put it on your local app, that information's used. So you don't have to keep typing in all that stuff over and over again. Because, like, for example, when I was doing my updated program, I started out with no authentication, and there were like 5 or 6 places I had to make those calls in different procedures in my app. And then I changed it to authentication. So I just had to change it in one place instead of 5 or 7 places.
got you.
So
Okay,
basically it's making API calls simpler.
okay.
But it is using NetTalk calls. It's not using, I figured you would do something with your
No.
way of
Well,
doing it.
I purposely because obviously the blues are the training elements and the greens are basically non-product specific, if you will. Like
Right.
imagine the CIDC US event, then it's really the main conference rather than the training days. That type
Right.
of approach. So yeah, basically, I'm going to cover some popular APIs. So things which I think people will actually find handy, like getting exchange rates, looking up addresses, things like that, or address validation, so on. Maybe even sending a text, that kind of thing. So some nice, simple, everyday APIs that people will can use in their applications. But to keep it fair, I'm not going to tie it to just one particular application. So I am going to cover the Chillcat, but I'm also going to cover the built-in Clarion if they're capable, and I'm also going to cover NetTalk. So I'm going to come up with a list of a few, I don't know, 5, 6, 10 maybe, I don't know, time permitting, of popular usable APIs, which hopefully people will be able to take the example and drop it straight into their applications. But the examples will just be done with some kind of communications. So it could be NetTalk, and some will be. Could be Chillcat, and some will be. And it could be Clarion's own built-in one, as long as I can, as long as it's capable. And I only use that caveat because I looked at them a long time ago and didn't really think too much of them, if truth be told. So I walked away from them.
Yeah. Yeah. I
If
looked at them too.
well, if because I'm trying to keep it all fair and open. So if they are capable, then I will try with them because people might not have NetTalk and they might not have Chillcat. So they've only got what they've got in the box. So if we can try and cover an example at least from the box, then I will try. So, but on your template, if you wanted
Don't try
to,
too hard.
don't try too hard. Okay. So I was trying to do it in the interest of fairness. That's all. Um, so yeah. But if you wanted to, obviously you might be hard pushed by them, but the talking to the APIs, I know what you mean. I've used NetTalk many times and so on. The only reason when I started to look around elsewhere was at the time it was doing zero and it didn't support the OAuth. I know Dries brought out a plugin and so on afterwards, but at the time they didn't support them, so I had to go elsewhere to accomplish my requirements and so on. So it it might be worth you on these templates being able to plug into our wrappers as well, because they can be extremely easy to talk to. You know, I think you used them yourself, and I can give you some pointers. I can think straight away of some easy. So you said you have a setup at the global level of what type of API and the authentication and so on, and I can think of some nice easy things that you could to ask there, and it would know which ones to go and use. Would you use the basically the query where you pass a body or query no body, that kind of thing? So I can think of some nice easy calls from simple questions at the global level. Welcome to have a chat.
We could definitely.
When you're doing that bit, if you want to hook up, and we'll just do a dev session together, and I can give you the calls. Really easy.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I don't mind doing that, because then I could have a switch in there that you could just say I'm using NetTalk, I'm using Noyantis, because sometimes one's
Well, I know
that's your
some
choice.
users who've got ours who haven't got NetTalk, and of course there's plenty what vice versa. It's down to personal preference. There's no right, no wrong. It's down to personal preference, and you will get people who will have one, who want to stick with one and want to stick with the other. So as long as the user isn't caught in the crosshairs, and I'm sure Bruce has the same approach, then basically, if we can give the user the power to switch from one to the other, but keep their code, the better in my mind. And if that means that they don't use our app and they do use NetTalk, then so be it. I'm perfectly happy.
Well, it's kind of what you have, and so like sometimes one's depending on your application, one might be a little easier to use than the other one, or a little more appropriate to the application or something.
So
but yes, I'm totally down with that. I just haven't had as much experience with the Chillcat stuff. So yeah, we could plug that in. That'd make my session totally filled up with information, pretty much.
Yeah, and it probably goes hand in
my
hand
goal
with my
basically
stuff as well.
because the goal for me, the goal is, I don't want to think about this stuff. I just want to call this API and I want to fill up this queue with info, and that's it. That's all I want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I want
to do that,
the currencies. One of the examples I have.
Yeah.
Maybe am I on before you or after you?
You're after. But, we can always change. We can do whatever we need to.
Yeah. Well, do you know, if we do the particular thing, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, but what could flow would be use a currency one for exchange rates for as an example. I'll try a few. Just to show people, okay, the documentation is going to look like this, but realistically, this is what you're going to need to do, that kind of thing. Now, mine will be more detailed, given the understanding of that. But then we could follow straight into you and say, now we want to automate it a little more. You've seen how to do it manually in NetTalk and manually in Chillcat and so on. And then we step straight into yours and we take one of those existing ones, but instead of doing all the manual steps, the template does that stuff for you. It's just an idea.
Yeah, that could work.
Kind of does flow, doesn't it?
It does.
So you ask a series of questions. It can relate to what's going on behind the scenes because they've just seen it, and then you get a queue back populated with a load of currency exchange rates, and the user goes off and uses them in their system accordingly.
Yeah,
could work.
Cool.
Could flow. A bit more work for.
I like that because it
would work really well for the user.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand what's going on, behind the scenes, even if it's you end up with a top level.
They're going to go across they're going to come across some API, popular ones people cover, we cover, Bruce does, so on and so forth, but you're going to come across obscure ones which just aren't covered, and people do need to talk to them. So they need to know at least, okay, the books, the manual's going to say you do this, but I know I can relate that because I've seen it, what Andy said or what Bruce said. It's going to be this bit of information, or what John said, it's going to be this bit of information. They use all these big words which can scare people half to death about the authorization, the bearer token, so on and so forth. If at that level we can just say it's this type of authentication, and you put it into this field, and that's it everywhere. If it's set, it sends it, and if it's not set, it doesn't send it as a header, that kind of thing. Happy to work on that with you if you like.
Well, if this ends soon, why don't we hook up right? Let's use the time you usually have booked right now, and I can show you.
Okay, yeah.
For a half hour or so, huh?
Yeah. I'm on the webinar now, and there's still no questions. So yeah, do you want to? What do you want to do? How do you want to do it?
I don't know.
Oh, should we cancel? If no question, I mean, do we want to do it now so people can start to see, or do we just do it privately?
I don't mind either way, as long as people don't we have to swear everybody to secrecy.
Well, it's only concept at the moment, isn't it? So we're not going to show any sort of things. So no, I'll tell you what, we will do it. We'll give everyone. I'll give what we're on now, 20 minutes in. Still no questions. Yeah. So anyone wants to raise a hand, wave a hand, ask a question. Otherwise, we are going to start to think about wrapping it up. But you have just heard what we are doing. Planned for CIDC. So if nothing else, that should be exciting to you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's either way. I mean, we can do it right now, or we can do it separately.
Well, these are recorded, so we can swear them to secrecy, but they're recorded and they go out. So no, we should really.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah, we should really. I'll give it to another few minutes. Really quiet. I mean, it's good from point of view, but nobody. Any questions or suggestions on the products and so on? Well, I'll give another 5 minutes. What?
All right.
The change which you can expect to see in the report control this week and the docking pane next week. I mentioned last week, but I'll just cover the concept, if you will, behind it. I'll go to one of our browsers. Browserbox. Now, I must apologise. This at the moment is getting its data off our SQL server, and the SQL server's got a massive data convert going on, and it's killing the machine. So the machine is running extremely slowly. So that warning out of the way. Here's an application working on Schedule It. The browse procedure, it's not a Clarion browse, it's a report control, but we have our particular columns, and of course the user can choose their own columns and so on. So we've got our report control here, and the change you can expect to see is at the global level on the report control. There will be a new tab, and it will be related to the save and restore. Now this, as I say, is report control. Docking pane is having the exact same facility, so is your task panel. So anything that offers save and restore will have this approach. So it's going to prompt you at the global level for what type of, how do you store this the save and restore layouts. And what I mean by that is, do you store them down at a procedure level? Do you store them at a table level? Do you store them at a user level? So user A logs in and they get to see their report control look like so. User B logs in and they get to see their report control look like so. And basically it's how you want it. That's not folded back. How you want it to be saved. I usually save them at user level, I'll be honest. So that when a user logs out and they could log in at a different terminal, they get their settings following them around. So basically, at the global level, it's going to prompt you for those particular settings. So what's your user ID field? What's your actually, it'll know the table, so kind of ignore that, and so on. Then at the local level, when you come to the report control, so there's our clients there, the patients. At this level here, currently you've got the save and restore, and it's done manually. So you do the access fetch and you do the access prime and so on and so forth. There'll be introduced a new option. So it's under options, save and restore. It won't prompt you now for the variable. These will be done at a global level. These kind of settings can be done at the global level, and basically we'll just ask you. This will turn into a drop-down list of no, you don't use save and restore. Yes, you do, and you do them all manually. And yes, you do, but you want to use the global settings, and it will go off and create its own tables. They'll be TBS based. I'd like to give them the facility to be SQL based in the future, but for now they will be TPS based. But it will actually create the save and restore tables and the records and everything. So basically all you will have to do is just turn on that you want save and restore on, and that's it. And it will go off and do write all the code. So it should make the implementation of save and restore in any of the products so much easier for you. So that's what you can expect latter end of this week for report controls, docking pane next week. Okay, and we have got a quick question now. Where have we got? Do have a question. Post it in chat. Sorry, Marty, I didn't see the chat. In fact, I'm just going to open up the microphone. Marty, I'm struggling to see where the question is. And your microphone's open. Should you want to ask?
Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
All right. So it's a simple, and I would not be surprised if the answer is, yeah, can't do it. The date picker on the calendar.
Yeah.
The date picker has the nifty feature that it will put a date into bold when there are events that have a date. So that a quick look at the 3 months on the date picker and you see, oh yeah, there's dates in this month or that week, and you go click on it and it opens up.
Yeah, there's activity on those days. Yeah.
Right, and so the property for that is a set bold on dates. So the thing is that the bold isn't really very prominent on that small area, and I was thinking to do additional font changes such as set a background color, because then that would really stand out, or perhaps border or text color. Well, the question is whether there are any methods to trigger other font properties, but because it looks like it's predefined on the Kojak side, there may or may not be. So before I spent time really trying to dig into it, I thought I would ask you to take a look and see whether that's the only thing that they expose or whether it's possible.
I will take a quick look.
Changes.
I think it's going to be linked. Realistically, I think it's linked to the theme, the selected color theme, the active color theme of the date picker, well, the calendar control. So I think it's going to be governed by that. Let's take one quick look before we totally just cancel it out or say it's not possible. But my gut reaction is no. No, it's going to be the date picker. Let's have a look at what we've got. There's our date picker. Ask date metrics. No, although we'll see what that is.
If you go down to see at the bottom. Oh.
I was looking at just date metric for this. By default, date metrics is false. For oh no.
If you go down on the screen you were just on a moment ago, the property in question was there at the bottom right there. Yes.
Yeah.
That is the.
Yeah, That's the property, whether they turn on and off, whether they actually bold or not. Granted.
And the question is whether there are, since that's kind of pre-configured, whether we can do anything ourselves.
No, you see, that's where I was looking at the metrics, because any of the paintings come under metrics. So that's what we would be looking at. So that's why I was looking at this, the day metrics,
got
and
it.
so on.
So all painting occurs through there.
Yeah, usually. So that's what I was wondering. I don't think they ask day is the correct one, if truth be told, but specifies whether to fire the day metric event. Okay, but then I've got the day metric event, and the day metric is that event would trigger before painting each one of these.
Right.
Okay, so it will put an overhead on. Imagine it, if you will, it's an embed point. So it's going to give you basically the ability to put some code in as events occur within the actual control itself. So think of it as that. Now that's the date that will be drawn next, and the metrics for the next day that will be drawn. So we want the day metrics and the members. So you have got font, get set, use to display.
And we've got a back color.
So you've got a font and you've got a back color.
Yep.
Four color picture. Okay. Now that should, we'd have to do some, it'd be worth having a look at that first. I'll privately have a look at, see if I can put an example together. Kind of thing, this can be a bit OTT, but it does look, it looks promising. So from what we would probably want is, where's that ask? We would want that to be set to true. Okay, ask day metrics. Remember, this is, just let me get that. It was the date picker, weren't it? Yeah. Ask day metrics. So this is purely the date picker. So it's this control here on the right. So ask day metrics turns on by default.
You can see how it would be an advantage to have dates more clearly jump off the screen.
Of course.
Because the bold is very mild. It's easy to miss, actually, depending on monitors and settings.
Yeah. So, so we would set that to true, which would allow for a new event to keep triggering constantly as this is being painted. So what are we looking at here? 35 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 42 dates there, 35 there. So you're going to be on 79 events there. Okay. Sorry, I'm on 32, and anyway, you're going to be on your numerous times. So this event, day metric event, will trigger so many days. Okay, so you'll be listening for that event. It will get two parameters, the date and basically an object, which is this. So the metrics is an actual raw object, and then we would want to manipulate the contents of that object. So it would be the object dot font dot size, object dot font dot name, object dot font dot whatever, that kind of thing. Or it would be object dot back color. So it's, just looking at the docs, it looks like it is definitely possible. It would be nice, I'll be honest, to know if that date, because you really would want to know. You wouldn't want to go querying your table to see if you've got anything for that date. You want to know if it's already in bold.
Essentially, if the bold is on,
I was going to say, I was wondering whether you could query that. But remember, this is going to be done prior to it being painted. So that's the only thing. So
is the bold property already set before the paint?
Well, that's the question. Before the paint, you'd expect it to be fair. So you could take a quick look and have a look. Is it bold? Right. Give it a background of red with yellow color. So so it really shines up that way and so on, that kind of thing.
Perfect.
Okay. I will take a look at that, and I don't know what your time frame is, but I will take a look at that for next week's webinar, and we'll hopefully.
That'd be great.
if it's possible, and I am quietly confident it is, then we will put it in next week, or I'll demonstrate it to you next week.
That would be great. I happen to really like guys with quiet confidence.
Well, just looking what that says, the only concern I've got is if we don't want to go hitting the database to say, have you got something for the 10th and have you got something for the 21st,
exactly.
because the
If we
painting.
could piggyback on the query it's already doing.
Yeah.
Be optimal.
Yeah, well, actually, you wouldn't query the database. You've got the internal find events, so there's methods automatically to do it. But the thing is, Kojak's already doing that. The fact that it can bold it means it knows that. So we just want to really piggyback on the back of their work already accomplished.
Yes.
So it's that kind of thing which I just want to check. Will that be populated by the time the event triggers and we get to repaint, if you will? So that's the only thing.
That would be that'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. The other thing we've done, but it wasn't just to give an example. I always like to give live examples. One example we did for the date picker was to do with a dental system which we used to work on, and at the close of day, the practice manager was supposed to do some data transmissions into the government agency, and they were supposed to do this every day, but in reality, they'd be done a couple of times a week or once a week. So you needed to highlight to them which days you'd not actually done the transmission for, and so on. So we would, rather than give them a list, which things can be missed out quite easily, we would present it in a date picker. And any days which had been successfully transmitted and received would be highlighted in green. Any days which had the transmission pending would be highlighted in red, and anything where there was no activity was just a regular date. So you would look at this and see a series of reds and greens and so on and so forth, which told them immediately what work they had to do.
Well, that's an interesting example. So that was on one of the webinars?
No, it used to be the example app actually does include that, just to show you different cell colours, just setting cell colour backgrounds. Let's just open up the example, but yeah, it does.
I mean, meanwhile, while you're investigating the other one, I could look around at that and
yeah, actually,
understand.
It's probably
that
on
sounds
that.
like it has additional advantages.
It worked. It worked well. Now that was purely from like I say, a transmission point of view. It does let the practice manager know if they went in there and there was a sea of red and certain activity. You might have, here's the thing, you might have done your transmissions fully up to date, and then one of your staff have gone in and changed some activity which re-affected a week last Tuesday. So they would go in, and a week last Tuesday meant would go to red, meaning it needed to be retransmitted.
You're whetting my appetite here, Andy. This sounds.
So you should have custom colours.
Being able to get that quick overview.
Yeah, I mean that's very crude, but it's still painting. It's telling you that it's painting certain
right, but that
colours.
that one's set at the template level, and it just sets a day of the week, and it was unclear before I started digging in.
Right.
I saw that how you would be able to do that in code.
Well, next week I'll tell you what we'll do next week. It'll be just random dates, but we'll add an example to the calendar app, which will show random color backgrounds, and we'll have some in green and some in red to highlight required activity.
And we'll show it based on whether there are statuses of the kind you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Any criteria that you can interrogate, you could then throw up on the.
Yeah, we'll just have a database of days with a status of pending, completed, and if the record isn't there, then you don't paint anything.
That's with all these kinds of things. The user interface, we know there's data there. The advantage of being able to see things represented in a calendar is the visualization, quickly and easily.
Well, we're looking at quite a range there. In fact, let's just bring it so it's smaller. So let's say realistically it was more like so, and they could go in. In fact, to be fair, you probably have it something like that. But they would go in, and now you could have a list, clarion list, report control list, doesn't really matter. You could have a list, And you can have a series of those, and whether it said the status being passed, pending, things like that. But you wouldn't see it would have the same information, but pictorially, a minute, seeing all that information, seeing in here, seeing 5 red and the rest green, straight away, you're in for 5 things, and
There you go.
it's so much easier,
Exactly.
and you're not reading down a list. So, and then you just, what they would do, what we did in ours, is you highlight the date and you press a button to say resubmit, and off it did and went off with these communications. But they had to also enter a PIN number, because these were you were sending basically qualified information where you were claiming money. So somebody had to put a signature against them to make sure what the information going up was correct, because you could actually do time for that, which means go to prison if you was fraudulently claiming. So, but the point being, it was a really nice user interface, getting the controls to help.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
That sounds great. So I'll take another look at that so I can follow better next week.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Andy.
No problem. Okay. We have got another quick question. John, we're still going to hook up afterwards. Where can you find the docs you were just looking at on the properties? Mike not set up. So, Frank, so the docs, I use this tool, typelib, basically. I think this is called IEEE, and so on. Cracking little tool, very old, and don't download that from the web, because the ones I've seen up on the web are absolutely riddled with viruses now. So don't go getting it from there unless you know the particular place you're getting it from. If you need this, by all means drop me a message and I can Skype it to you or email it to you or whatever. So I've got the installer. It was free, so it's not as though I'm breaking any rules by giving it out. It was a free utility and so on. So that's that. When I press the launch help, it launches the overall CodeJock help, but that is part of your CodeJock install anyway. So you would go to your CodeJock installation, go to your version. So I'll choose 19.1, and I think it's in it's in help, and it's the symbol reference, and that is the overall help for the particular version. And the way they are structured, imagine, if you will, if I just have this here, I chose the date picker at the highest level, and then it would go off and tell you about different things. So we said about the day metrics, which triggered an event. That's the event there, day metrics. So we could do the same here. So if I went to date picker, you would see the control, look at the members. Yep, you've got your methods, you've got the properties, and down at the bottom you do have your events. That's the event you're going to be watching for. So that's great. And it tells you that one's a day. Well, that's just a date. That's very simple. And that is going to be an object. So that will tell you, yes, that's an object that's coming back. Well, basically it's the metrics for the next day that will be drawn. And it's an object, and that's saying as. So that's a date, and that's an actual raw object. We could look it up in here, but of course we can click on it as a link, and that will take you straight to that as an object, just the same as the actual date picker is an object with various entities under it. So is that. So there it is. It's a date picker day metrics object. You get to look at the members of that, and that will show you what that can do. So properties, methods, these are just properties, but if it did have more, then you would get to it. So say, for an example, an event, that's a calendar event. It's got members, but that's got a whole host of things. So now imagine it as a tree. We've gone from the calendar down to the event, down to a property, like the body, and so on. So that's the construct of the help.
Very nice. Lot to work on.
Yeah, well, I crack these open now and just read, easier than reading English literature. I just open these and just follow it. But it is nothing more than a chain. So think of it. I use that. Sometimes I'll go in with this. I'll be honest with you. So I'll just look at this. I'll go, okay, just as we saw before. I know you saw the property, and it's like, there it is. It's perfect. But I know that was going to trigger something to do with the metrics.
Right.
So I could go, okay, I'm going to go to the metrics. We're going to get an event. So we follow this through. Day metrics. There's a date, just as this was telling us. So there's your day, and that's metrics, and it tells you here it's a date picker, day metrics. So in here there will be date picker, and there it is, date picker, day metrics, and I can go to here and have a look at what the properties are. So it's a long, it's the font, so that is an object in its own right. It's a long, and that's an object in its own right. The picture. Don't really use that, I'll be honest with you. So yeah, I'm Frank, happy to pass one of those on to you if you require that. But this also, if you don't want to get your hands dirty at that level, you can do them exact same things here just by following the path, if you will. So start with the date picker, get the event, get to the object, and hey presto, you've got the same information as you've got here, but with more description. So that might be a better one for you to start with. Right, okay. And with that, we shall wrap up. Until next week, and next week's going to be covering some stuff on the calendar for Marty.
Hopefully for everyone.
And for everyone. And
There
there's some updates. We said about updates. I think you missed the start, but we've got a series of updates coming out before the CIDC event in late March. We've obviously mentioned the report control there and docking pane, but one of the ones which is also scheduled, and I can't see on the board, I think it's about 3 or 4 weeks yet though, to be fair, is a calendar update. So you can stay tuned for a calendar update. That will then start having links to the Chillcat stuff, so you can automate your online syncing straight from the calendar. So we want it as simple as tick and go, that kind of thing. Well, tick and give it the credentials, obviously, and then it will do it for you. That's the plan. The practice might be a little different, but that's the plan. So, okay,
Something to
until
look
next
forward
week. Oh, definitely. Until next week, then. We'll wrap it up. Thank you very much. And John, I will Skype you in a minute.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. See you then. Cheers.
to. Cheers.